Hello, my name is Natasha. I work for Glasgow Museums and I'm here at Glasgow Museums Resource Centre, GMRC, based in Nits Hill. Today we are going to explore some of the fascinating collections housed in this unique building. GMRC first opened in 2003 to provide a storage space for Glasgow Museums collections. Of all of the 1.4 million objects owned by Glasgow Museums, only around 2% are ever on display in the different venues across Glasgow. The rest are mostly stored here in this purpose-built facility. GMRC offers the public the chance to see the collections in storage and allows the public to go behind the scenes. Apart from storage facilities, this building also houses activity rooms used for workshops for school groups, families and community groups. There are also study areas and a reference library, the Open Museum Outreach Service and several conservation workshops. GMRC is one of Europe's biggest museum storage facilities. Here we have 17 different storage units that are called pods. These pods each house different collections, including art, sculpture, natural history, archaeology, transport and technology, arms and armour, and world cultures. The oldest objects are the rocks and fossils. Some are over 5 million years old, and the newest are some of the contemporary artworks. The pods are all environmentally controlled and managed. We are able to heat, cool, humidify and dehumidify each pod. Therefore, the objects stored here are kept in the best conditions and do not deteriorate as quickly. The pods do not have traditional museum display cases, but much of the collections are in open storage. Today, we will explore just some of the highlights of the fascinating objects housed here in our stores. This pod contains our world cultures collection. We have objects in here from every continent, dating from more than 5,000 years ago, right up to the modern day. What country do you think this object is from? If you thought Egypt, then you were right. This little object is called a shabti. Shabtis are little figures in the shape of a mummy. They're usually made of faience, a special type of blue or green glazed clay found in lots of ancient Egyptian artifacts. Ancient Egyptians believed that everyday work would continue in the afterlife, and shabtis were there to do that work for you. They are found in tombs, and most are inscribed with spells, which would awaken them in the afterlife, where they would carry out tasks on your behalf. This object is also from ancient Egypt. What do you think it could be? It fits in the hand and is shaped like a heart. This little stone is used to grind up a black shiny mineral called galena. It was then mixed with oil to make a black paste known as kohl. Have you guessed yet? It's a makeup palette. This kohl eyeliner was then dragged over your eyelids using a sharpened stick. It was fashionable, but it was primarily used as sunblock, and both men and women would have worn it. Along this wall is an array of spears, paddles, staffs, and other significant and sometimes sacred objects from around the world. One is this spear from Japan, called a naginata, which means reaping sword. This is a type of samurai sword with a curved blade. It would have been used by monks and young samurais in training, as well as samurai women. It is very long and so kept the opponent at a distance. It was also good for attacking an opponent who was taller and those on horseback. These naginata spears are traditionally passed through families from mother to daughter, often given as a gift to brides. This one is ornamental, with beautiful mother-of-pearl inlay. This impressive door was carved by Punjabi artists from Beera in present-day Pakistan in the late 1800s. It was created for the Glasgow International Exhibition of 1888, probably as a prop to decorate the Indian Pavilion. The door frame is made of upcycled railway sleepers and the doors of repurposed J. Finlay & Co. wooden packing cases. The carvings were done on panels, later attached by nails to the frame. The floral motifs were carved freehand, but the carvers used mathematical tools to mark out the geometric elements and floral motifs. There are still traces of the original pencil markings. What do you think this colourful object could be? It's bright pink, it's in the shape of a fish, it has hinges here, so it opens, it's made from wood and is lined with pink satin. Do you have any ideas yet? It's a coffin. This is a fantasy coffin made in Ghana by Joseph Tete Ashong, or Pa Joe. Fantasy coffins from coastal Ghana, known as boxes with proverbs, have become iconic works of contemporary African art and are made in a variety of shapes: birds, reptiles, cars, aircrafts, ships, vegetables, and fruits. Families commission coffins representing the social status, life achievements, aspirations, or dreams of a deceased relative, or that characterize their personality. Sometimes the deceased will have even prepared a design brief during his or her lifetime. For example, if a fisherman died, his coffin might be shaped like a fish. We will now visit one of our natural history pods, where we store all of our taxidermy specimens. Many of these specimens date from the Victorian era, when taxidermy became very popular, although we have many more recent examples too. Let's take a look at some of the most popular animals stored in here. This walrus is one of the first animals to catch your eye. Walrus live in the Arctic and can weigh about the same as a small car, about 1,000 kilograms. Did you know that both male and female walrus have these impressive tusks? They use them to haul themselves out of the water and onto the ice, and they are also used for defending themselves. Their thick whiskers are helpful for sensing shellfish on the seafloor. The greatest threat to walrus right now is climate change. They depend on the ice for their survival, and this habitat is under threat. This tiger is called Sam. He lived in Calder Park Zoo in Glasgow in the 1950s, and when he died, he was preserved at the museum. Tigers live in a range of habitats around the world, including rainforests, swamps, dry grassland, and the freezing forests of Siberia. Sam is an Asian tiger, which are known to be good swimmers. Tigers are mostly solitary creatures and mark their territories by clawing into trees, leaving their scent behind. Did you know that a tiger's roar can be heard from 3 kilometers away? And the stripes you see on tigers are like human fingerprints. No two patterns are ever the same. This is the fastest animal in the world, the peregrine falcon. These incredible birds have a recorded dive speed of 242 miles per hour. You can see the streamlined shape of its beak and body, which helps it to cut through the air when diving for prey. Peregrine falcons live on every continent on Earth except Antarctica. They mostly prefer to live in open spaces near water, but they've been known to live on top of skyscrapers in cities. This object may look a bit like a unicorn horn. Unfortunately, it's not. However, it did belong to an amazing animal called a narwhal, often called the unicorn of the sea. And the Vikings used to sell these to Europeans as genuine unicorn horns possessing magical powers. These huge whales can grow to be 6 meters long, and these amazing twisted tusks are actually their front teeth. Scientists today still aren't 100% certain what the tusk is used for. What do you think it could be? This impressive animal is the Japanese spider crab. They are the largest crustaceans on Earth, growing to more than 3.5 meters across. They can also live to be 100 years old. Japanese spider crabs live in the Pacific Ocean as far as 500 meters down, and they scavenge for plants and dead animals. They also decorate their shells with sponges and plant matter to camouflage into the background. Glasgow Museums has a large and significant collection of approximately 100,000 butterfly and moth specimens, which date from 1877 to the present. Many of them were collected by Lieutenant Colonel William Bridgeman Lambert Manley and his wife Catherine Jane Elizabeth Manley on their travels. This cabinet drawer contains Morpho Menelaus terrestris specimens. These brightly coloured butterflies are also known by the common name blue morpho. Their vivid, shimmering blue colouring is produced by the physical structure of the scales on their wings. These microscopic scales reflect certain wavelengths of light. This is different to many other insects, who create their colour through pigmentation. 2 of the butterflies in this drawer are pinned to show their undersides, which are brown. This colouring means that when they close their wings, they are camouflaged against trees. These are longwing and tigerwing butterflies. Some of these butterflies are toxic and use their brightly coloured wings to signal this. When a predator eats one, it will become sick. The bright colours are easy to remember, and so in the future, the predator knows which species to avoid. This is our paintings pod, where we store more than 4,000 works of art, dating from the 1300s right up to the present day. Let's take a look at some highlights. This painting is the oldest in the collection here at GMRC. It is by Niccolo da Buonaccorso, who was from Siena, Italy, and we think it was painted around 1370. It depicts St. Lawrence, a Catholic martyr who was killed in the year 258 CE. He never repented his faith, even baptizing his fellow prison inmates. He holds a palm in one hand, indicating his martyrdom, and a gridiron in the other, indicating his method of death by being roasted alive. This is disputed though. Some scholars think that there was a misspelling in the recorded story, and that it was more likely he was decapitated. It has been created using ornate gold leaf, and would most likely have once been part of a larger altarpiece. This wonderful painting is by a very famous Italian artist, Alessandro Botticelli. It depicts the Annunciation, the moment that the Archangel Gabriel tells the Virgin Mary that she will become the mother of Jesus, God's son. Gabriel rushes in with the news, which Mary humbly accepts, as we can see from her body language. It was painted in around the year 1493 and is made from tempera, colour pigments bound with egg on wood panel. There is a lot of bright blue pigment in this painting, which was very expensive at the time, as it was made from ground lapis lazuli, a semi-precious stone which had to be imported, and so it was used sparingly, and only for figures of great importance, shown here in the figure of the Archangel and of Mary. The work is particularly notable for Botticelli's use of mathematical perspective, which gives an impression of three-dimensional depth, even though the image is painted on a flat surface. This technique was quite new at the time, and Florentine artists, including Botticelli, were among the first to adopt it. This bright and colourful work was painted by Paul Cézanne, a French artist living in the 19th century and a contemporary and friend to many of the Impressionists, including Monet and Degas, though he would not have considered himself to be an Impressionist. This work is called The Château of Medan and was painted in around 1879. The painting used to be owned by Paul Gauguin, whose wife sold it while he was abroad. Gauguin regretted the sale right up until the end of his life. The Château of Medan features the house of Émile Zola, a writer who was a childhood friend and financial supporter of Cézanne. Cézanne visited Zola and painted the surrounding area. You can see many techniques used in the Impressionist style at work here, although Cézanne is considered to be post-Impressionist and is one of the forerunners to Cubism. His later work is even more geometric and architectural. Can you notice the thick paint strokes, the horizontal lines and repeated forms? It is clear that this is a work of paint on paper and not a realistic landscape as it would look out of a window. This painting will be returning to the Burrell collection, so you may be able to visit it there. Now we'll look at a true Impressionist. This beautiful portrait is by one of the original four Impressionists, Auguste Renoir. This painting is one of his son Claude, known as Coco, with blonde hair and bright red cheeks. This portrait is quite sketchy, with some of the canvas still showing through. In Renoir's later years, when this portrait was painted, these more casual and recreational paintings emerged, partly as a result of rheumatoid arthritis, which the artist lived with. You can see in this painting that the brush strokes are longer and quite different to a lot of his earlier work. This different approach aroused criticism at the time, but it allowed Renoir a certain freedom to experiment in different styles, and who created several more of these modest and intimate portraits during the last few years of his life. This impressive painting is called The Night Sky Dreaming. It was created by Paddy Japaljari Sims along with 17 other artists from the Aboriginal community of Walpiri people in Australia's Northern Territory. The Night Sky Dreaming tells the story of a boy called Piripungu and a journey he and many others made across the central and western deserts to take part in initiation ceremonies. Different elements of the painting symbolize this journey. The semicircles represent people. The straight lines represent spears used in one of the ceremonies, but they also represent the passage of time. The curved lines are the snake vines used for tying the spears. The colour red represents dawn and dusk, while black is for night. On the way back from the ceremonies, there was a battle between Piripungu, his family, and some of the caretakers of the dreaming. Piripungu and two of his brothers died and became the stars on the left and bottom of the painting. I hope you have enjoyed exploring some of these fascinating collections. If you want to find out more about the objects we have at Glasgow Museums, We have an online database called Collections Navigator. You can use this to browse our collections online.